Take three. All right, so tell me about what it is you do for a living.
Okay, so I am a special education teacher, an occupational therapist, and most recently a teacher of the visually impaired. Really, I'm just a teacher who works with people with special needs.
Okay. Let's get into a little bit of your biography. Where are you originally from? And how did you first get into this line of work?
So I am originally from New Jersey. I grew up in a family of, in one of those wonderful neighborhoods, and we had a next door neighbor with a girl who was pretty much my age, and she had significant cerebral palsy and was nonverbal and non-ambulatory. And I learned from a very young age that everybody gets accepted and everybody gets included. So we never went swimming that we didn't bring her along, and we didn't go horseback riding without bringing her with us. And so I learned very early that everybody gets included and everybody has value and everybody's important. And even if people aren't able to speak, they have a lot to say. So when I started teaching, I decided that was the avenue I wanted to pursue. And then I started working in homes, doing early intervention, and that's really where I love being, because it's at home that I can have such an impact on kids. So most of my work is done in homes, although I do have a few kids that I see with visual impairments in the school systems.
Okay. Well, can you share with us the name of that girl from your childhood?
Sure, Patty Perrell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there a time initially where you were a more traditional special ed teacher within a school district, where you were going and working in a school setting full time?
Mm-hmm. I started out my career in New York City, working in a very specialized school, a school for children with multiple disabilities, and then I went back to school and got my first master's in early childhood special education. Worked with babies for a long time and decided that if I really wanted to continue to work with young children, I needed to understand movement. So I went back to school for a second master's in occupational therapy. And then most recently, I've been presented with a variety of kids who have an unusual, not really unusual, have a visual condition called cortical vision impairment, which is the most common visual impairment in the United States today, but is really underdiagnosed and undertreated. So I went back to school and became certified as a teacher of the visually impaired, and am still pursuing graduate work in cortical vision impairment.
Wow. What brought you up to our area?
Housing. The price of housing in New Jersey was out of sight, and I saw an ad for a house up here in a local paper in New Jersey, and came up here and loved it, and bought a house, which I was never going to afford outside New York City, and just loved the pace here. I think we just have such a wonderful community here. I just love the small town feel of it, that everybody knows, you're only one or two steps removed from everybody, which is so sweet. And such a wonderful community, especially around people with special needs. There's so much cool stuff going on in Binghamton, and such generous, kind people.
When was that? When did you move to our area?
I moved to this area in the early 1980s.
Okay. Yeah. When was it that, now let me get a sense of this. Do you work for any one specific agency? Are you mostly a freelancer who gets some paychecks from some organizations, but also you work on your own? How does that work?
I have my own agency. So I have a small agency. We provide occupational therapy services, vision services. I have a social worker who works with us, and a couple of part-time OTs.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you call your agency?
Well, I wish I had thought of this before I started. I just started as Reva Reed, and now it's Reva Reed Therapy Services. I could have come up with a better name, but
I like
there
it.
it is.
I like it. So talk to me a little bit about it. It seems as though your areas of interest and the areas that you have focused on have evolved over the years.
Yes.
But it sounds like you still have your fingers in a few different pies, so to speak. You're still not only working with, children with cerebral palsy, but also children with vision impairment, that sort of thing. What if we could sort of take them individually, if that's all right? When you're working, for example, with Andrew,
Yes.
what are your goals with Andrew? What are some of your methods and techniques?
So my friend Andrew has some motor issues. So one of the things I'd really like to see him do is to be able to be more independently mobile, to make his own decisions, to communicate better, to use his eyes and hands together, to play. So Andrew and I meet one time a week at home, and then we meet one time a week at the local pool. And although Andrew is, not yet able to sit up independently, with some adaptive support, he's able to swim independently. So that's a really cool thing. So I really try to work on improving function across the board. So whatever that looks like for a kid.
What are some of your techniques and goals with the visually impaired?
So I'm working with a variety of kids with cortical vision impairment, and what I'm trying to do is to teach other people about how to interact with kids with cortical vision impairment. The techniques that we use to work with kids with cortical vision impairment are very different than the techniques that we use to work with kids with ocular issues. So kids with cortical vision impairment, their eyes are fine. It's their inability to process what it is they see. So while a child with an ocular issue, we want to stimulate the vision, stimulate. With a child with cortical vision impairment, we need to simplify. So we need to present things singly, one thing at a time, on a solid background, lighted. So I'm trying to provide education for teachers and therapists in the community about how is it that we can best service children who have cortical vision issues.
Are there other sorts of disabilities that you spend significant time working with people who have these?
I do. I do some volunteer work with Gigi's Playhouse, and have been involved with the Down syndrome community for a long time. I always do serve on the committee for the Buddy Walk, and have done. I've been coaching a local group that we call Signing with the Stars, which is a group of young adults with Down syndrome, and we do songs in sign language, and then we do performances in the community. So just Wednesday night, we did a performance at Hilltop Nursing Home, which was lovely. Our folks get a chance to shine, and we get an opportunity to provide an evening of entertainment for other people who who really enjoyed our performance. We've just been invited to do the national anthem at an event at Binghamton University. So that's one of the groups that I've been involved in for, I'm going to say we've been doing Signing with the Stars for just about 12 years. So we're relatively new at this. And we have a core group of between 15 and 20 people who come. We meet every Wednesday night at Gigi's Playhouse. Anybody who would like to come is welcome, the more the merrier. And we learn signs and songs for about 45 minutes, and then we have a wild dance party for the last 15 minutes, and it's a wonderful opportunity for us to all get together. The other thing that I do at Gigi's Playhouse is once a month I participate in a group of young children called LMNOP, which is Learning and Moving with Our Peeps, and that's for little people birth to 36 months old. And then once a month, I also do a movement and music group for birth to 5-year-olds, where we just have movement and songs for an hour and a half, parents and children together. So that's my work at Gigi's and with the kind of Down syndrome community in general.
Is that all with the Down syndrome community? Is that all volunteer basis?
It's all it's all love. You know, volunteers makes it sound like it's work. It's not work. It's play. It's wonderful. It's joyful. It's, what wouldn't you do to go in and have people, everybody in the room light up and scream, "Oh, Reva, you're here! How nice!" and hug you and kiss you. Like, come on, it's the best gig in town.
How does that benefit the folks with Down syndrome? How do these efforts? What does it do for them?
Well, what does it do for all of us? It reminds us that we're all in this together. And just because you have an extra chromosome, or you're lacking a chromosome, or some other little glitch, we're all in this together, and we're all about about celebrating our community and one another. I have never experienced such warmth and love as I have in the community of people with special needs. The families, the children, it's like this fabulous community that not everybody gets to be a part of. And when families get presented with a child with disabilities, suddenly they become aware of this fabulous community that they didn't even know existed. It's a wonderful community we have.
If I could take a moment here to read this nomination
Sure.
letter. So this is what Pat, right? Pat wrote. Reva is an occupational therapist for children with special needs. However, she goes way beyond her job in the service for these kids and their families. She volunteers at all of the community organizations who serve this community. She started a chapter of Ambucks, a company that provides custom-designed bicycles for kids with special needs. She has raised money so that many of these bikes can be cost-free to families that need them. She heads a Down syndrome group and started a performance group using American Sign Language. She babysits for free for a family with a special needs child once a month so that the parents can have a date night. Reva also continues to educate herself to be a better provider, recently becoming certified to treat blind children with other special needs. There are other community contributions that Reva has and continues to make. Anyone in Binghamton who serves children with special needs knows who Reva is and will tell you that they adore her. She is truly a remarkable and selfless soul. I am proud to call her my friend.
How sweet is that? Yeah, pretty sweet.
So what did you think when you first heard that you had been nominated to be a remarkable woman?
Well, first of all, I had to tease everybody that I am remarkable, But, I mean, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. I don't feel at all remarkable. I think I'm just somebody who tries every day to do the next right thing. You know, what is it that you need? How can I help? You know, um, so the bike program, I went to a conference. Had a little girl with muscular dystrophy on my caseload, and I ran into the guy running this bike thing, and I said, oh my God, I need one of those bikes. And the guy said to me, you could start a chapter. I said, no, I live in New York. I could just go to the chapters in New York. He said, there is no chapter in New York. No, I said, I live in New York. Yeah, there's no chapter in New York. So I came home and said to my friends, guess what we're doing? We started a chapter and have since helped over 100 people in the community get adapted trikes. Our youngest recipient was 2 at the time, and our oldest recipient, I think, was 87. And we decided as a group that we were not going to be a giveaway group, that we were going to help families. So we want to work with families who are willing to have some skin in the game. So we worked hard and continue to do bike days when we can. You saw when you pulled up, there's a trailer in my driveway full of trikes, which we use to have bike days where people come and we try you on a variety of bikes. We say, oh no, try this seat, try this handlebar, try these, and we custom make a bike specifically for your body. And then we help you pay for the bike.
That's great.
Yeah.
When did you start doing that?
We started doing that in maybe 2012 or 13.
Okay. And you've had these bike days, what do you do them annually? Or?
We try to do them annually, sometimes twice a year.
Okay.
And we do them at Southern Tier Independence Center, which is a lovely facility and has been wonderful to us. They also have some wonderful stuff going on. I do some volunteer work there, helping out with their loan closet, where they loan adaptive equipment to people so that they can try it and see, is this something that you might like to try to order or purchase or that kind of stuff.
I think you've already more or less referenced this, but it seems to me pretty clear that you feel like you personally, outside of it being your job and paying your bills, but that you personally are getting as much out of these interactions as the people you're working with are.
Maybe more, you know. Working in this field forces you to be grateful every day for everything you have. You know, I work with kids who struggle to take a breath. You know, like I breathe so easily. You know, I have this fabulous body, you know, that sometimes I get down on, but you know, it works beautifully. You know, I have the ability to communicate. I have so many things that just came so easy to me. Yeah.
Also interested in how, now, how do I ask this? You're never really supposed to ask this question, but I guess I am a little curious how old you are.
I'm 63.
So at your age, you seem to still be very committed to expanding your knowledge base and expanding your abilities. You're not just sort of coasting on all the efforts you already put into getting yourself trained in these different ways. What motivates that? What keeps you going to continually want to learn new therapies, new approaches, that sort of thing?
I think my job demands that of me. You know, I get presented with a child who has a lot to teach me, and then it's my job to figure out what is it that this child needs and how do I get there. So it's only out of necessity that I continue to keep going to school, going to conferences, trying to learn. I'm also the adult child of a librarian. Go look it up. Really? You know the answer, just tell me.
All right, I think that maybe suffices in certain circumstances, but no one made you start an Ambux, chapter here. Obviously, there's an aspect to your personality that I'm picking up on. Perhaps I'm wrong. That you have almost an entrepreneurial spirit, a can-do sort of spirit. You're someone who seems to say, "Oh yes, that can be done. Let's do that."
Yeah, it can be done. It all can be done. Yeah. My mom was left a widow with 8 kids when I was 11. My youngest sister wasn't yet 2. And, my mom was somebody who was willing to try anything, So, the dryer would break and we would try to fix it before we called somebody, I mean, it's already broken. How bad could it be? Either we'll learn something and fix it, or we're going to have to call somebody anyway. So from her, I really learned, you try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But you learned something in the process. So yeah, I did own a toy store for a time. I was doing therapy and had a toy store. Well, don't I love retail? That was an important learning experience. I went to school to be a massage therapist. Failed out of, well, I didn't fail out of that. I quit that. So I've tried things thinking, oh, this will be good, this will be good. And, some things stick and some things don't.
What's somewhat implied by the notion of a remarkable woman is that that woman inspires others. Obviously, you inspired Pat to nominate you. Whether it's your intent to inspire others or not, how does it feel to know that you may be inspiring others?
It feels like a responsibility always to be somebody who's encouraging other people. And I know that I have young therapists in town who I worked with somebody they loved and they became occupational therapists because of working with me. And I know that because they've told me that. So it feels like a big responsibility. And I think it's my job always to teach everybody how to love and care about and work with everybody. So yeah, I mean, it's a responsibility for all of us, hopefully, to be teaching younger people how to be good people.
All right, Reva, to be honest with you, you've given me so many great sound bites that I could use.
It's gonna be hard.
That, at a certain point,
One of the other things I just want to tell you about is this little program that we did a few years ago called Go Baby Go.
Oh yeah, all right, tell me about it.
So that was so cool. So there's a program at the University of Delaware where they make modified equipment for little babies to drive. And I had, I don't know how many kids on my caseload at that time who were not able to walk. So I got together with a physical therapist from UHS and a bunch of families, and we all bought these little Lightning McQueen cars, these little Fisher-Price cars. So I think we bought 7 of them, and we bought all the equipment to modify them. And we got together at Stick, and we were gonna all everybody was gonna modify their own kid's car. We modified 7 vehicles, wait for it, 3 licensed electricians showed up to help. Really? Just because we asked. And we made these 7 vehicles, which have now been moved from kid to kid. You know, I think most of the cars are probably on their 3rd group of kids. And from that, then we moved on to making these bigger vehicles for some of those same kids. So Andrew is on his 2nd vehicle, which I hope will enable him to be able to drive a power wheelchair. Because for many kids, if you can't prove that you can drive, you're not eligible to get one. You know, it would be like putting you behind the wheel, having never driven a car, and saying, oh, sorry, in 5 minutes you showed me you can't drive. So that's another program that I just love, which I love to kind of see move out.
You know, one thing I guess I didn't really follow up on from her nomination. Can you tell me a little bit about this family with a special needs child that you babysit for?
Well, yeah, it's not a big deal, really. So I work with this young family. They moved here from out of state. Neither of the parents have their folks here. They don't have grandparents in town. And they have 4 kids, one of whom has pretty significant disabilities. And I love this kid, I love this family, and I kind of have made it my little, I never would have talked about it, my little thing that once a month they can go out and I go and do something special with the kids. Yeah. It's just doing the next right thing. Seeing somebody who could use a hand,
How much longer do you think you'll keep doing all of this? Do you contemplate retirement? Some would say you're approaching retirement age.
Some would say that. I can't imagine ever, sitting home and knitting. I don't know. No, I don't know. I mean, someday I might think about retirement. And some days I think about retirement and talk about it. But, I'm not ready for that.
All right, at this point, unless you have something else you'd like to add, I think I'm good. Emily,
Can I jump in?
Oh,
I
please
just have
do.
a question.
Sure.
What's your typical age range that you work on?
So it's interesting because the youngest child I work with presently, I think, is about 13 months old. And right now, the oldest child I work with is 18. I've been working with her since she was 2. Yeah, which is really lovely to be able to look at kids in the long haul, She's 18 and she's really becoming way more independent presently, And I have a funny story to tell about her. We've been working on dressing and undressing skills, and she is now able to completely undress and dress herself, and doesn't really like wearing clothes. She likes coming home, taking off her clothes and putting on pajamas. So the other thing we're working on is chores. So one of the chores I have her do is empty waste baskets. Well, her latest skill is she comes home, takes her clothes off, puts on her pajamas, and throws her clothes in the garbage. Perfect. She's combined those skills beautifully.
How does it make you feel to see all the progress that she's been able to make?
It's so cool to me. Just yesterday I was out shopping and I ran into a mom whose daughter is in college and she's studying performance opera. And this was a little girl that I worked with who would not walk. She just wouldn't. And she was terrified of everything and was, had such a difficult time from birth to probably 3 or 4. Really challenging time. And here she is in college. Opera, performing on stage. You know, we are terrible at predicting what's going to happen to kids when they're little tiny people.
Is there, I'm guessing there's a period of goodbye that happens. What's that like when a child has finally progressed and doesn't really need, maybe they don't need assistance, maybe they've kind of outgrown, you know?
You know, that's the nice thing about Binghamton. You know, you never really lose people. You know, that's the group at Gigi's Playhouse. You know, that grew out of a desire to not lose track of families. So, you know, you never really lose people in Binghamton. You know, it's a small town. We know